Welcome to CAN, Caribbean Affiliate News. My name is Siobhan Gobin. Here are the stories that we're following today, July 22nd, 2013. In the news from the Caribbean, Turks and Caicos government loses civil claim against former minister. In Jamaica, cop arrested for soliciting money from minibus driver. Congresswoman Clark welcomes aid for undocumented Caribbean immigrants. And in Guyana, top Guyana Teachers Union officials accused of contempt of court. Details on these headlines and more when we return.
Government say it's all about the food. August the 10th. Foreigners welcome to the land of oil dung. Beers and strong rum, girls hot and can done.
Tell them it's how we dead. Tell them it's how we dead. Tell them it's how we dead. Master we all and dead. Tell them it's how we dead. Tell them it's how we dead. Tell them it's how we dead. They. When I'm drinking rum and I'm ringing iron, it's how we dead. I'm thinking about the
It's all about the food. Oil Dung Fest, August 10th, Lampama, I'm in the place.
Welcome back to CAN, Caribbean Affiliate News. My name is Siobhan Gobin. This segment of the news is sponsored by Ambrose Travel. In a ruling handed down on Friday, Turks and Caicos Islands Supreme Court Judge Margaret Ramsey Hale dismissed claims by the Civil Recovery Team that former Minister of Natural Resources McAllister Piper Hanchell improperly assigned Crown land to himself and/or related parties. It was alleged that the former minister was involved in a number of land grants that he purchased for prices that were grossly undervalued. One piece of land he needed for his business interests had reportedly been refused him, but after he became a minister, he apparently awarded the land to himself. In addressing these events during the 2008 to 2009 Commission of Inquiry hearings, Senior Commercial Counsel Alex Milne famously produced a letter written by Hanchell approving the grant of Crown land to himself. However, according to the judge, and I quote, while it was questionable form, to say the least, for Mr. Hanchell to write a letter from himself in his capacity as minister to himself in another, not much turns on that fact. The Crown isn't seeking to set aside the transfer on the ground that he acquired the land by fraud. It is seeking restitution of the sum by which it claims the defendant was unjustly enriched when it acquired the land at an undervalue, or alternatively, that sum which represents the value of the benefit received by it in consequence of Mr. Hanchell's breach of fiduciary duty. She goes on to say there is no doubt that the value of the land was greater than the value at which Mr. Hanchell obtained it, but the question for the court is if it is satisfied on a balance of probability that Mr. Hanchell knew as a result of the valuation he had obtained that he was acquiring the land at an undervalue. In the absence of any comparable evidence justifying the valuator's opinion, there is nothing in the report prepared by Construction Advisory Services that would cause me to say that he knew the land was worth more than it was being offered to him by the Crown, the judge continued. The Crown submitted that given the disparity in the values, Hanchell was at the very least put on inquiry that the value ascribed to the land might have been wrong. According to the judge, the submission recast the role ascribed to Hanchell from breaching his own fiduciary duties to being in receipt of the land, either knowing or being put on inquiry that the disposal of the land to him at an undervalue was done dishonestly and in breach of a duty to the government. In relation to the claim by the Crown for unjust enrichment, the judge said, and I quote, notwithstanding that with hindsight it is clear that the government was mistaken about the value of the land, It was a mistake born of ignorance, the result of the failure of the then Minister of Natural Resources to request an up-to-date valuation of the land, and cannot give rise a claim against Akita for unjust enrichment." End of quote. The Crown also claimed interest in respect of the leasehold land in South Caicos, the defendant having paid the arrears of rent at the commencement of the proceedings. The defendant resisted the application and submitted that the Crown has no contractual entitlement to interest, and that, while the court has a discretion to award prejudgment interest on a claim for debt or damages, it is not obliged to do so, and in the circumstances where the arrears was settled out of court, the court should decline to do so. In a subsequent statement, the directors and stakeholders of the defendant in the action, Akita Holdings, said they were pleased that the claim has been dismissed by the Supreme Court. This is, however, by no means the end of Hanschel's legal troubles. He was interviewed and subsequently arrested and charged in February last year by the Special Investigations and Prosecution Team with conspiring to receive bribes. He is currently one of a number of former Progressive National Party government ministers, their family members and others facing various criminal charges of corruption, fraud, and money laundering. In Jamaica, members of the anti-corruption branch on Thursday arrested a special corporal assigned to the Kingston Western Division on reasonable suspicion of breaching the Corruption Prevention Act. Allegations are that the policeman corruptedly solicited and accepted a sum of money from the driver of a Toyota Coaster bus after it was discovered that the driver was allegedly operating contrary to the provisions of his road license. The matter was reported to the anti-corruption branch, and a sting operation carried out during which a special corporal was held. A case file is to be submitted to the Director of Public Prosecutions for a ruling. Caribbean American Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke has welcomed a new plan by New York City to aid undocumented Caribbean immigrants. New York City officials say the city will spend $18 million to help undocumented Caribbean and other immigrants to find jobs. City Council Speaker Christine Quinn, a mayoral candidate, said the money will fund adult education classes and legal services that the U.S. federal government requires immigrants to take to qualify for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. The New York Immigrant Family Unit Project will provide free legal services to immigrants threatened with deportation who are unable to represent themselves in proceedings. And I quote, "New York has always been a city of immigrants within a nation of immigrants," said Clarke, the daughter of Jamaican immigrants who represents the 9th Congressional District in Brooklyn. The program permits immigrants to live and work in the U.S., regardless of the outcome of an immigration reform bill currently in the House of Representatives, provided they are between 15 and 31 years old as of June 15, 2012. Nearly 80,000 immigrants living in New York are eligible for the deferred action, but about 16,000 need to enroll in an adult education program to qualify. President of the Guyana Teachers Union, Colin Bino, and his General Secretary, Coretta McDonald, will Monday have to answer an alleged contempt of High Court action brought by an aggrieved union member. Milne Seymour wants the High Court to cite Bino and McDonald for contempt of court because they have allegedly ignored court orders related to the teachers' holding of union offices for 2 years. Seymour has said that the union has suspended him from holding office for 2 years because of his previous legal action that had brought the union into disrepute. The former presidential and second vice presidential candidate had also challenged the validity of the results of the April 2012 union elections. He had filed an injunction against the executive from exercising powers and functions, but the High Court subsequently discharged them. High Court Judge Brassington Reynolds has since issued conditional orders in favor of Seymour until the union shows cause why its decisions should not be squashed. Now Seymour wants Bino and McDonald to be now committed to prison for their contempt of court by deliberately subverting the order of Justice Reynolds made on October 8, 2012. In court papers filed, attorney at law Dennis Jawan Paul says that despite the service of the orders, the JTU, acting through its officers, including Binoy McDonald, are preventing Seymour from functioning in the capacity in which he was elected in the union, chairman of the Plaisance branch of the union, including preventing him from attending general council meetings of the GTU. In an affidavit, in and around December 18th, he was prevented from attending a general council meeting as branch chairman and council representative. He recalled being informed by the members of the JTU, including its first vice president, Malcolm Marcus, that Bino had instructed that he would not be allowed to attend that meeting. The decision to suspend Seymour was taken by the JTU's General Council on July 24, 2012. He, however, says that he does not fall within the categories of persons over whom the General Council can take disciplinary action. He further says that he was not informed about any charge, complaint, or disciplinary proceedings before that council meeting in order to allow him to defend himself. You are watching Caribbean Affiliate News. We will be right back.
The government say it's all about the food. August the 10th. Foreigners welcome to the land of oil dung. Beers and strong rum, girls hot and can done.
Tell them it's how we did. Tell them it's how we did. Tell them it's how we did. Master, we all and great. Tell them it's how we did. Tell them it's how we did. Tell them it's how we did. They. When I'm drinking rum and I'm ringing iron, it's how we did. I'm beating bucket and beating.
It's all about the food. Oil Dung Fest, August 10th. Lavama, I'm in the place.
It's not me, it's you giving wrong. How the day started with a case of beer. The woman tell me we have to go somewhere. When Green called me, I tell me lava here.
Since we announced Sign and Drive with zero out of pocket and low monthly payments, cars been flying out of Bronx Honda at a record pace. Whoa! New Accord with zero out of pocket for $249 a month, or new Civics just $199 per month, or save thousands with 0% financing. You never had to leave the Bronx to get the best price on the Honda. Bronx Honda guarantees the lowest price in the Bronx. Bronx Honda, East Tremont Avenue. Visit BronxHonda.com.